Hi, I'm Janice Kephart and welcome again to Border Basics. In part 2 of this series on secure driver's license legislation, I'm going to explain what secure driver's license law does and does not do, otherwise known as the Real ID law. Secure driver's license legislation, when it was passed in 2005, was actually long overdue. Counterfeiting and other fraud was running rampant. Deadbeat dads, alien smugglers, drug dealers, illegal aliens, and other identity thieves were on the uptick of abusing how easy it was to get a legitimate state-issued ID in the United States. Documents used to prove identity and residency were easily falsified or completely fake. Counterfeiting rings worth millions of dollars a year operated between the U.S. and Mexico with franchises in every major U.S. city. And these organizations, some not busted for as long as 20 years and only after September 11, made clear they did not care who they were selling IDs to. Gaming the ID system was their business. It took the terrorist attacks of September 11 to put secure IDs on the map as a security issue, which I explained in part 1 of this series. Secure driver's license legislation is now in effect. The government is funding it, and every state has stronger IDs than they did before September 11. Other measures are being put in place, so now it's more difficult for people to try to get multiple IDs under multiple identities in different states. Yet still you hear mountainous roars about what a secure driver's license means under the Real ID law. Claims that Real ID creates a national ID card, invades privacy, creates big fat databases being built that would store all your private data. It's a bunch of hogwash, and in this discussion I will tell you why. The Real ID Act is a 2005 federal law setting minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and IDs. Under the Act, individuals must have a Real ID compliant license in order to continue using that driver's license or state-issued ID for federal purposes, such as boarding a commercial aircraft or entering a federal facility. The key standards require motor vehicle agencies to verify identities and issue hardened ID cards less prone to counterfeiting. To verify identity, states will check several databases, such as the Social Security database, legal status databases, and birth and death records that states keep, before they issue a Real ID compliant license or ID. All of these databases are available today in some form, and most are already in use by most states. The driver's license is the most common form of ID used in the U.S. today. It's accepted for everything from opening a bank account to boarding a plane to picking up movie tickets with a credit card. It doesn't make sense to impose a national ID card when states already produce a widely accepted credential. The fact is, every state issues multiple types of IDs, and that's not going to change. An underage ID or trucker's license or bus driver license or simple residency card are all still going to be issued. There's nothing national about that issuance. All are still subject to state law, and every state will infuse its own standards to the driver's license and ID process in concert with the federal rules. All that changes is that you and I are actually better protected at the front end because the state you live in now must better assure that you are who you say you are and nobody can take your identity from you. Better assure your card won't be stolen and used by somebody else, and better assures the security of the information you provide them and who it is you are providing it to. What is national about the Real ID law is that once states move towards compliance at a national level, we're all better protected. There's a big difference between 50 states and 6 U.S. jurisdictions being able to produce different IDs for the residents that meet minimum standards versus the federal government insisting that every U.S. resident carry the same national ID. If anything, Real ID completely negates the possibility of a national ID, as a driver's license will now be secure enough for federal purposes. Real ID protects privacy by assuring that people are who they say they are. There's no aggregation of personal data into one huge hackable database operated by the federal government, as the naysayers put out? The fact is, Real ID calls for driver's license applicant information to be verified in order to help prevent identity theft and fraud, whereby states are to cross-check applicant information with federal and private databases that already exist and are already used and are not ever subjected to privacy complaints to date. The databases are networked by a private, not government-owned or operated network, nor does the federal government hold or have access to individual applicant information ever. The notion that Real ID would create a single federal database is completely wrong. It's pure misinformation. In addition, there's another thing that is just hogwash. Real ID licenses are not required to contain RFID technology nor biometric information such as fingerprints. The information contained on a Real ID license will be the same as what is required by most states today. That information, such as name, permanent address, age, height, weight, is widely available and doesn't implicate privacy concerns. This is Janice Kephart for Border Basics.